Hello, my name is Kimberly Croswell, and I'm pleased to have as my guest today the anarchist, activist, street artist Rocky Dobey, who has been active for over 50 years in the movement. Thank you for being here with me today, Rocky. Today, I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Sounds good. I'm here.
Thank you. The first thing I want to ask is how did you get your start as an artist? What were the factors in your life that led you to create street art and then later political art?
Uh, it's a long story, but I'll start. I was 12 years old in Toronto, and I was part of the shoe shining community in Toronto, on Yonge Street. Back in the 60s, there was a lot of shoe shining, which was a thing boys did on the street. Because I lived near Yonge Street in Toronto, which was the main street, and we used to be a shoe shine boys. And when another shoe shine boy we'd go to the library and we did a lot of drawings and we put them up on the street. I think some kind of marking territory or something to do with it being on the street. And the day that we saw the first photocopy machine was just invented at the Central Library, we got into making photocopies and putting them up on the street. I never really stopped doing it. That's kind of how I started. And that's always these paper pieces. And that would be up until, I started in like 69, 68. I was young.
So you started on the street. So how did you move from like marking your own territory into more political art?
Well, the story is, I've always done political work and I've still done street work, street plaques and street art. Um, in my early 20s, I was in the union, the iron worker, working in high-rise office towers. So I was getting union politics, getting politicized through union politics, and being open to looking at taking courses and stuff. So I started getting involved. There's a course I could take here on Marxism. I could get in the Free University. We put up posters in the street. Oh, there's courses at the Free University. And I went to some of those. This is while I was an iron worker. And I would go to these courses and I was still doing drawings and I was still putting up stuff in the street. And then I started, there's an event coming up. They need someone to do a poster. I go, well, I'll do a poster. I think I did my first poster my first political poster, like in 1986 for the 50th anniversary of the Spanish Civil War.
Okay.
I think it was 30, yeah, that must have been 30s, yeah. That was 86. And that was my first political poster meeting anarchists at events.
Okay. So let's back up a little bit. You're becoming a politically aware, becoming politically active. Who were the people you were meeting to bring this forward into your life? Was this a group called Kick It Over, I hear?
Well, I knew Kick It Over people. It was I knew some people from Kick It Over, which is pretty influential. But I think we used to have these meetings at the 519 Church Street, and I met some people there. And Kick It Over sometimes they did meetings, and on Ryerson Avenue, and I was going to meetings there. At that time we were organizing around Leonard Peltry, we were organizing around different events, and since I was doing art posters and stuff, and at that time I started doing big banners. Now this is different than my street art plaques, which is a little different. Those were anonymous pieces. I was still doing those, but I was kind of keeping those to myself. At the same time, as I got involved in politics, I was doing big banners in support of like indigenous rights. I was working with people I work in the construction site come and help me on Sundays. We'd put them up. Um, um, that's kind of one part of what I was doing. But
So you were working at this time with a political group. So you were working with people, but you were still maintaining an independent practice as an anonymous artist.
yeah, so I'd be anonymous in different kinds of ways to different kinds of people. I never really signed my work, my street artwork. Some of that got political. A lot of it was memorials. Because I got into those memorials. I was doing copper art. I made a copper because I worked on a construction site that had a lot of copper clad on the bottom of Yonge Street. And so I was stealing that copper, taking it home, putting up pieces on the street. But I had a friend who died, street guy boy, and I did my first memorial. So since then, I've always been doing memorials for people in Toronto. And then my political art was posters for events. I did posters for events. There would be an event coming up, do a poster. I had So I met the anarchist community two ways: doing posters, and I had a pickup truck. So we ended up having a pickup truck in Toronto, and I would always move the anarchists, and they always need moving on those days. So I kind of laughed, but I was because of that I was pretty popular.
Can you speak to a little bit more about your experiences in the Free University?
The Free University was I remember seeing the first poster, Free University. What a crazy idea! Sounds amazing. Because that time I was kind of like a working class guy. I didn't finish high school, but I wanted to. I was always learning in books and stuff. So I was reading a lot, going to lectures. But I was having to sneak in. I go to like U of T, I go to lectures, but I always have to be sneaking in. A Free University, what a concept! So then I met like people like Jim Campbell, and I started to understand in the Spanish Civil War. That was a one day I did the poster for, but a lot of anarchists in their 60s, people who remember the war. I mean, it was just incredible the richness I got from that one day. They showed movies, and I felt I'm part of history. And then I sort of and I did some banners and all that. By banners, I mean big billboards. There's a lot of banner buildings in Toronto, so we do these like 10 foot by 5 foot paintings and put both them on buildings. But we did all kinds of buildings. We were doing stuff around prison politics, classic anarchist events. So
So you mentioned Jim Campbell.
yeah.
Can you tell people who Jim Campbell
Jim
was?
Campbell was an activist in Toronto. Put out a magazine called Bulldozer, which I love. So when I saw the magazine, great, because my dad's a bulldozer, my brother's a bulldozer, I had a bulldozer. Then I got Vehicle for Prison Reform. So I thought that was kind of cool. I met Jim, got involved, hanging out, and so Jim was very influential on me and many people. He also was a working class guy who I'm more identified with. If you like politics, and I started working with Jim on projects. We we go to protests. I remember going with Jim Marie on like to Leonard Peltier occupation to get him extradited to Canada in Ottawa in the mid '80s, and came back and put up some Leonard Peltier big banners, did big pieces on the street around Peltier back then.
I saw some of the images of your Leonard Peltier memorial plaques.
Yeah,
Can you describe them?
the memorial plaques were
Well, the Leonard Peltier plaques.
the big one.
Yeah.
So that one's out of the funny about that one. That was that's on the hardened glass. I took it from a job site. So that's actually from the Royal Bank building. It's a piece of glass I stole from the bill. I was working on the job, so I took it from the glass and I made a bill in it. So that's why it looks reflective.
Okay.
And it was up for a long time. It was up for maybe three years, and part of it was taken down. There was two parts to it. That piece it was up for a long time, but now it got taken. Then it was taken away, and it's last thing I heard, it was down. I think it went to a reserve. Somebody I knew arranged to take it off because the building was coming down or something. So they went, and it was hardened glass, looked great. So they took it down. It's gone somewhere. I haven't seen it in years.
So, in case anyone who doesn't know what happened to Leonard Peltier, can we give a little bit of a background?
Kind of. I tried to. Well, he was in jail for murder during the uprising, and what's the
In the American Indian
yeah, American
movement?
movement, yeah, the AIM. But what's the standing wrong? No, not sorry, I can't remember.
It would,
Anyways, there's a lot of books written about it. He was framed. There were three people charged. Two of them had settled out of court, and he took off to Canada. And so since everybody got off and he was in Canada, they got him back, and he got framed. Ledger got framed.
yeah, so he's been in jail.
He's been in jail ever since, and he's an artist too in jail, and he writes, and he's kind of was a center point around Indigenous struggles.
Mhm.
Used to be, I did a banner call from Leonard, from yeah, he's just been a while. He was a pretty important figure in mid '80s, guys, and he's still in prison
He's
today.
and people are still trying
Yeah,
to get him
yeah.
out.
The Leonard Peltier Defense League would travel. They hung with anarchists a lot. They were the ones organized with. They were based out of Toronto or Scarborough, and they were doing work around Ballantrae for years and years and years.
And that prison justice work is something that has been part of your life for quite some time. And that is that something that was introduced to you by Jim Campbell, or is that something that came separately?
came separately. I mean, came from Jim Campbell. Didn't know that actually was a movement, but I was always interested in it. Only because my background. My dad was in jail when I was a kid, so I remember visiting him in jail. So I kind of have, from a kid's perspective. Um, and I just was the idea of justice. I always like the idea of justice. So it wasn't so much it was prison, but the idea of justice. We all think, we figure to have having justice is kind of crucial to having a fair society.
Yeah. And it's something that comes out in your art quite a bit. I noticed there's a lot of symbolism that I see within your art that you use repeatedly. Like the 13 and a half image. I see it all the time in your work. Could you care to?
Well, I even signed my work 13 and a half. I mean, it's a justice symbol. It was used mostly in prison justice day. They used that image. 12 judges, 12 jurors, one judge, and half a fucking chance. And I've always liked that slogan only because it's read two kinds of ways. If you're from the upper class, half a you get upset or only half a chance. But if you're in the lower class, half a chance is all you want.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get half a chance. Like, just give me half a chance. I got because they don't expect even that.
Yeah.
So I like the way it gets read. Who you are, you read it to me.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's
based that perspective shift.
yeah. So I use that in my artwork quite a bit. I used to sign. I never sign my work, or sometimes I 13 and a half people. Oh, that's mine. They know from the number because I would stick it in there somewhere, but not thinking I don't mean to sign it. But then eventually they would know that must have been mine.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I was doing political work all that time. I was doing and then I got involved in the Survivor Gathering. I got involved in a committee to organize a gathering, which was 1988 in Toronto, which is gathered 5,000 people showed up. Became massive. That was the Jim Campbell night when I was on it, and I was working full time on high ride and going to 5 meetings a week. Totally was involved in wildcat strikes with the union, where the local 1819. So I was playing both sides, working in politics. Then I had my street art on the side. It's a pretty rich time. The anarchist gathering got me into the anarchist art, which I didn't know the history of. So I ended up being on the curator of the anarchist art show. We had 3 different locations where I collected posters put a mail out, and they all came back to the all these posters from around the world came. I got to see all these posters when I made an art show of all these posters, which is like, wow, it's a whole rich history of posters. That came. That was amazing. Hundreds came.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. So you were curating at that time.
Yeah, I got on that committee. Yeah, the way I used to work, I used to volunteer to do things. Like, I guess I'm doing it. I guess it's still to this day. Probably get involved with doing it.
But you also contributed the poster for the Survival Gathering.
Yeah, we did the Silk Speed poster for that. We raised a lot of money. That was a fundraiser for that poster, and we kept on making. There's a couple of slight versions of them, but yeah, that was I did that poster.
So let's describe that poster for people who may not be able to see it.
Yeah.
It is a picture based upon Matisse's dancers of people holding hands dancing around broken columns.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's called The Survival Gathering, an Anarchist Unconvention.
Yeah.
1988. How many years did it take to organize that unconvention?
We started organizing, I would think, after that event around the Spanish Civil War triggered the start of the gathering organizing.
Okay.
Because we're talking about history and stuff, then Jim Campbell said, we're going to just do a gathering in a couple of years. So we started organizing then. And not knowing what we're getting into, we just got bigger and bigger. Yeah. Organizing. And the gathering was going to be all kinds of, anybody could do a workshop or anything. That'd be really interesting stuff that nobody had done, workshops on it. We did political, I was doing the political art workshops. There's stuff like trans stuff back then, there's stuff on all kinds of, a lot of indigenous stuff in Survivor Gathering, making a nod to like indigenous culture in Canada. And trying to look at a positive way of looking at Survivor, it's, if I remember correctly, yeah.
So why survival?
Well, I remember the debate. I think because it is Spanish and whatever, still here. And so we're in a lot of people are still capitalists. They're trying to squash things, but we're just kind of I don't know if we use it now, but back then the word meant something different. But the community was pretty small until then in Toronto, and I think Survivor's still here. And I don't know how it came about, but that's kind of there was a lot of debate about it. It seemed negative or positive, but I think it worked out to be the way it worked out. That it made sense.
Okay, so it was something like, "We are here and we're not going away."
Yeah, we're still here. We're survivors, and survivors is it depends on what culture you come from. It seems like yeah, it's a positive statement for some people. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Like, yeah, fine, I'm still here.
And how about how many people would you say showed up for it?
Like $5,000 or 5,000. We made so many. I mean, the amount of volunteers we had, it was unbelievable. Nobody expected. It got bigger and bigger as we're getting. Well, this is happening. I kind of galvanized, and it galvanized other gatherings after that, and it was just uh, it was in all the newspapers. It was Toronto was in use, and there was a riot. I mean, it was a classic Toronto. It hasn't nothing's happened like that. But and then also was a change from the left to anarchism. Before that, there's Marxists and leftists were kind of well politics all around, and all of a sudden change all these what they would call freaks. What are you doing that? Except we were all except they white like to nail it. And they say that, but a lot of people in the movement were working class people like myself were doing the anarchist movement.
And of course, this was during the age before the internet.
No internet, yeah, no internet, no computer going right now. Yeah.
So this was all organized via snail mail or
Yeah,
mail?
somebody, yeah, as it turns out, some anarchists had computer and were pretty good at it back then. So we actually made, which didn't have internet, but we were able to make it. They organized, I had nothing to do with that, but they organized little labels for everybody. They did mail outs, but there was a zine magazine culture. So every city would have magazines, bookstores. So I went through I would say the bookstores was this throughout the world where they'd get a poster, put it up. I know this poster was in every bookstore, in our anarchist bookstore. And there was political bookstores in every city, from Melbourne, Australia to England, France, America. Every city would have, was just starting to get these idea of a bookstore was just coming out of anarchist bookstore. That seemed to be what's happened. So we kind of fed into that. But it was not, it was through I would say through the bookstore movement or info space, but it's called bookstores, is where the word of mouth went through.
So you say having a bricks and mortar space is essential for the anarchist organizing.
Especially, when you go to a city, in those days, if you go to a city, you go to the bookstore. And at the bookstore, you meet other people. You see, look at the wall. Anybody here? What's going on? Is there an event going on? Is there a collective house in the area to live? Or everything was through bookstores.
Mhm.
There's no internet. So you couldn't go into a city. You didn't know where to go. You'd go, we look for a bookstore.
Amazing.
And you find the most radical bookstore. In the radical bookstore, you look at the wall. Oh, there. It's a collective house. You're looking for a roommate. Or there's an event tomorrow night. You go to it and you meet people.
So you have spoken to me about the difference between working alone and working with collectives. Can you please share with me how collective practices inform one side of your art compared to the solo work you do?
Well, uh, there's different kinds of, there's the collective, there's a couple ways to do collective work, but sometimes we get street banners and stuff. We work on it together with paint. We discuss it. It's fun. And it always takes more than one person to put them up. So that's we all sit together, or we have a meet, or we get together. Like there's the best ones I enjoyed the most. Revenue Res was going on. Was a demonstration in Toronto. They had a fire, and we go to the fire, hang on, and we just talked about ideas for a billboard. Then we go there, we talk, and be 7 people around the fire. And I bring a piece of giant canvas. We'd all paint it up, and then the next day put it up in the board. Oh, and then what's the next one we're going to do? So we did like a whole bunch of honor revenue res. We did a whole bunch of street stuff we put up. So that's one way. The other way is if I do sculptures. I did a drug users memorial sculpture in Toronto. It's a Queen of Carl. It's a permanent one. It's done harm reduction. Uh, but I work with like we work. I think it's 150 different drawings on it for 150 people from the street. So I spent 2 years working the project, and we did carvings into they made etchings and drawings, and everybody came. So it's covered in other people's drawings. I welded it up together to a sculpture, and the sculpture is there now. That's one way of doing it. And most posters I do a poster. If it's a collective poster, they'll say, "Oh, I don't like this, or I don't like this," or we it doesn't work. I just change it, or I don't mind working with people. I like, so I do my posters. I'm not really individual. But then my street art stuff, because most of it I kept to myself. It's memorials. It's something personal to me. and I've done thousands of them. I'm all over Toronto, so I just there's sometimes they're really just drawings or a lot of memorials of people I know. Now I'm getting people come to me for memorials. If somebody dies, I do a memorial. I do a plaque, and you make a plaque, and I'm usually movement people, like anybody in the movement who's died or been active. I'm doing one now for Phil Zerzin this week. He died about 3 weeks ago. Allen Gardens. He was an activist. He was a bike activist. He was 7 years old, living in a tent in Allen Gardens in Toronto. He died of an overdose. So Phil, I'm gonna do working on one. We're doing a big bike rack fund. It's gonna be Allen Gardens, and there's a committee organized, and they have a free. It's gonna be a legal piece going up, and I'm working on that piece with a group of people from Allen Gardens. So that's the piece I'm doing like today. What I'm doing right now, as opposed to 50 years ago.
Mm.
So I just keep on doing whatever I do.
So, by the sounds of it, and when you're working collaboratively with other people, you are facilitating other people's creativity.
Often, yeah. So that's all I like to do. There's a couple of that sculpture I did. We made a catalog and a whole bunch of everybody said they weren't an artist. They
Yeah,
can't draw. But because I'm doing these pieces on copper, I said we're going to do stencils. I made it do like how you do tattooing.
yeah.
Everybody understood that. Okay, we do like tattooing, and we did drawings. And so I got 150 amazing drawings. And now the sculpture is made that people can still add drawings to, as opposed to taking a wrapping. So people come with nails and scratches. People have died, and it's been a pretty interesting project, long project. We had a little bit of so they had
You're referring to the drug users.
drug users and more. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where is that located?
Queen and Carla in
Okay.
it's yeah, right near the corner. So it's yeah,
About how big is it?
10 feet tall. The 10 feet tall flame, but basically copper flame covered in drawings and etchings. Yeah,
Yeah.
some are mine, but a lot of them were from everybody in the streets. So like I took the copper to the Riverdale health center where the little changes. I had it there once a week. We'd all meet, and all the money that was given, I took the money. We paid people. Anybody on the street who wanted to do drawings, they got paid as an artist. Everybody's an artist. So we paid everybody, I think, $20 an hour to come in. People came in once a week to come in and we work on it. And some people made it. Some people would come down. Some people were from Northern Ontario because they had these two women that their brother died of overdose. They want him to be able. So they would come down all the way from north of Sudbury to come down to do drawings on this piece for their brother.
So it's a memorialization as well.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. It's more
Yeah.
people's names are on it.
Yeah.
So it's mostly stories about people who died on the street of overdose.
Okay.
A lot of Indigenous people, but people on the street. This is before the epidemic. This is 10, 15 years ago. So we have a big list of people who died. I keep on every year. I got to stamp in more names of people who died. But now we haven't done it for 2 years now because it's just so overwhelming.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't, we need more, no room in there anymore. We got to find another spot to put the names. And now it's become the epidemic. It's a lot bigger now.
Yeah. So this is something you're kind of stewarding as an ongoing project.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not involved anymore, but except for putting on stamping on new names.
Okay.
Yeah. So they contact me. It's the Harm Reduction Center, Toronto. It's the South Riverdale Health Clinic.
Okay.
So there's been a big conflict there lately over a gunfight and so
Yeah.
that's another story.
Yeah. No worries. Um, can you speak to some of the other memorials that you've done?
Oh, what I've done recently, so we've been an anarchist I do for many years. Graham, for many years. He died. I did more for him on the street. Did some memorials for even people like who read there's an art store at Spine Avenue. Oh man, he born and raised on Spine Avenue. He was in his 80s. He died. He ran an art store. Everybody knew him. So just a little local story, but a local thing. Wasn't an anarchist. He just ran an art store on Spine Avenue. I did a memorial for him. I don't have to say. I did so many memorials. It's hard to keep track. But usually, word of mouth, people come to me, or if I know about them, or if there's so many homeless that I know, or I know, I'll put up a memorial.
I saw the memorial for Jim Campbell.
Just, oh, he did, yeah. That's
Yes.
up.
Where is that?
That's on I don't even Parliament Street. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, still there.
Yeah.
Some like I have some sculptures up. Some pieces have been up 40 years. I did a memorial for a man who was living in a van on the Walter, and his van burned down just as the developer was coming in. and we made a bench. We put a bench up, and the bench is still there 25 years later. City hasn't bothered with it. It's got a memorial for Walter. The city thinks it's theirs. We made a really well done look at. I was involved in a also a collective of punch clock still screeners.
Oh, yes.
So I was in a collective of activists and artists. We had a space where bands would come in and doing silk screening. And that silk screen collective eventually turned to a metalworking collective because we found out to pay rent and stuff, you could make more money. And I was a welder, so was another person who was a welder. We started doing metal work because we could charge, we could make a living. So we worked as a collective metal shop to make a living in Toronto. And we made art. So we made art out of there too for people come to us. There's a demonstration going on. They need we made like a Statue of Liberty for somebody for some protest. That we made something on the metal, give it to them. No one is illegal. We did a lot of things for them.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Can you describe some of the things you made for?
I'm trying to think. What's the justice with the two scales?
Yes.
Yeah, we did a version of that. They did for a protest they took to Ottawa. We did a good quality. They wanted to install it there, so we did this. It's a while ago. I can't remember, but it was a 20 feet by. It was a massive steel structure. We made it all bolt together. They took it on site and they bolted together. So it was really well made. So they couldn't just knock it down that quickly. They came. What's going on?
So it's an intervention art piece.
Intervention art piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was organized by No One Is Illegal, which is immigrant supporting process.
Yeah,
Organization. They're everywhere, right?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So you've been collaborators and working in coalition with activist arts organizations.
Yeah, I mean, yes, lots of different things. It's hard to, I mean, you're asking me to, I'm funny, I'm on this is first everybody to read. I'm new to this discussion about it. I feel uncomfortable about talking about it, but I am. Yeah, I've done a lot of different things for different people. And I always have my anonymous side, but and now I'm actually not that anonymous anymore. I mean, still not, but now I'm open and I do Instagram. My daughter got me on Instagram. I'm in my late 60s. I'm even selling art now to pay the rent now because I was only in the union for 12 years. So I got out. I got out of the union. So I didn't, so after that I was just working here and there.
Mhm. Well, then we can talk more about the symbolism that you've been working with. One of the most iconic themes that reappear in your work since the 80s is the image of the collapsing, burning tower. This is an old image for you, even though it was a new image for a lot of other people. Can you speak to where this imagery comes from?
Well, good question. Yeah, I did that burning tower a lot. Obviously, it changed once 9/11 happened.
Yeah, of course.
And when 9/11 happened, I had a poster up there with that burning building for G20, and it was up 6 months before it was released. 6 months before the wall thing came down. So then it was shown after that. People thought I did it because of the wall. No, but it was a burning. Well, I don't know why I did burning towers. I mean, this I represent this. It's the system, the tower. I did different log towers or regular towers. Sometimes they're burning, sometimes they're growing. But crashing towers is like, I guess, critiquing capitalism and environment. And also, I worked on a tower, so I also had to work. When I first started, I had a working class perspective too, because I was actually building bank towers.
Yeah.
I was on top of bank towers going more. I was building bank towers. So it's probably figure my critique. I'm building bank towers, but I'm protesting one day, next day I'm building it. So, I mean, that's as a worker. So it was always at conflict. So, that's, people can read what they want into it. I mean, obviously, I've since learned the tarot card uses the bank tower, and I love that. So I didn't know at the time. And so, well, that's great. I mean, somebody told me that. That's like tarot cards. That's great. But I think it's a symbol that almost you must have for some resonance. I did a chair too. It's a religious chair I would use over again. There's a few images I use over and over again. There's my style has a Byzantine style, often with Ukrainian background and motifs. I use Ukrainian. I did a lot of work in Ukrainian too, like not in English, a lot of in the early 80s. So I was doing a lot of Ukrainian street art, totally anonymous. I don't know how anybody read it. I barely, I don't even speak Ukrainian. I would just figure, yeah, just out of interest.
So, What advice do you have for younger activist artists who might just be starting out with anarchist projects?
Uh, just do it. I mean, yeah, just do it. I mean, I think as I talk to, if you look at me, I've been doing them. Just if you just do them, if you make art and you make art every day, you put it up, you're an artist. You forget about the system out there and whatever job you got. The more you do it, your work will change. You'll meet other artists. It's a lifestyle. And also, and making art in the movement is actually you're taking people's ideas and you're rethinking things all the time. You're kind of, I don't really like doing posters as marketing. I try not to market. My posters are not about marketing. They're trying to illustrate what's going on. I'm trying to talk about and again, I think posters play a role that way. They actually define what an event's going to be. So I don't want to think of marketing, get people there. That's not the only reason you do it. You want it to just because I think you want to describe the event as true as you can. So, but I generally tell people, do you want to draw and make art? Just do it. Um, yeah, and if you do it long enough, you're an artist.
Great.
That's what yeah,
Thank you, Rocky, for your time. I really appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom, and thank you for sharing everything that you did today.
well, you're special. Yeah, I'm doing it with you. I'm not, you just not my thing, but it was great. And plus, I love what's going on. I'm in New in Victoria. I'm here. I'm getting blown away by this Camus bookstore and everything. And it's like, wow, this is a whale. This reminded me of another. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, thank you, and I'm glad you like our bookstore.
Yeah.
Thank you.